Hey guys, today we have Arjun on the podcast to talk about the book Refugee.
Thanks for having me.
Anyways, would you like to give us a brief summary about the book Refugee?
Refugee was written by Alan Gratz in 2017. It follows the story of three refugees, Joseph, Isabel, and Mahmoud, who have to escape their home countries in order to find safety. Joseph boards the MS St. Louis to Cuba in order to escape the persecution he faces in Nazi Germany. Isabel builds a boat to get to the US due to the poor state of Cuba under Fidel Castro. Mahmoud leaves Syria on foot to Germany to escape war and conflict in his country.
On top of that, are there any specific pros you recognize about Refugee as a book?
Refugee is a fairly easy read that teaches you about the lives of refugees and the struggle they take to get there. Gratz wrote the book in simple language, yet the symbolism he introduces to Refugee adds deeper meaning to the story and how all three stories connect in a meaningful way. Of course, some of the funds from this book will be used to support refugees all over the world.
That seems like a lot of pros to reading this book. Are there any cons to reading Refugee?
Although Refugee is written in simple language, the book grapples with powerful themes like loss, love, death, and suicide, which requires emotional maturity to handle this. Throughout the book, violence repeatedly occurs which might not be suitable for younger children to read about. For example, Yvonne's death and Joseph's father's suicide by jumping off the MS St. Louis.
Now that we know a little about the book, I would like to ask you a couple questions.
I'm all ears.
I would like to know more about the emotional journey of the characters throughout the book, having that they went through many hardships.
All three main characters had a really huge emotional journey with their families. Joseph, already shocked by what the concentration camps did to his father, has to cope with his dad's suicide attempt and the MS St. Louis being turned away from Cuba. Isabel has to survive out in the ocean with her family and friends. After Yvonne dies at sea during a shark attack, she has to cope with the loss of her best friend. Mahmoud has to flee with his entire family to Germany, witnessing death and destruction. He also loses his baby sister Hannah after another boat took her away in Greece. The hardships that these three characters went through are immeasurable and have emotional weight.
The last question I would like to ask was if there were any parallels between the book and modern life.
Of course, all three conflicts are real-life conflicts that claim millions of lives. Joseph, Isabel, and Mahmoud's stories are based on the stories of real people who are victims of conflict, hatred, and war. To this day, we can see examples of refugees fleeing their homes to find a better life.
Okay, that wraps it up. Thanks for coming on, Arjun.